All right, good morning, good afternoon, and good evening to everyone around the world in attendance. Thank you so much for joining us for Global Cleveland's 2021 International Sister Cities Conference. My name is Rosrita, and I work as the International Community Manager at Global Cleveland. Before we begin, I would like to thank the sponsors who are critical in making this conference happen. Swagelock, Medical Mutual, Platform Brewery, Irish, The Links Incorporated, Corner 65, Us Together, and 12 Literary Arts. Today, I am pleased to introduce our public art panel, where we will hear a guided discussion about the importance of public art to a city's identity, how it brings communities together, and how we can create equitable access to public art. Global Cleveland is proud to be hosting our third annual Sister Cities Conference. This conference celebrates the partnerships and connections that the City of Cleveland has built with our sister cities via economic and cultural exchanges. Cleveland has held the door open to newcomers for generations, and over the last 57 years, 23 global cities have joined that journey. Cleveland's sister city relationships broaden our perspective and possibilities. We are excited to announce that next year, our fourth annual Sister Cities Conference will be held in person during the week of October 17th. We cordially invite you all to join us next year in person to experience this wonderful conference together and enjoy all the delights Cleveland has to offer. Today, we would also encourage you to take a chance on broadening your horizons by participating in the chance to win a trip to Italy in partnership with Italian Tours by Diana to celebrate our 10th anniversary. The lucky winners will get to travel to our Italian sister city, Vicenza, Italy. Italian Tours by Diana is a boutique travel agency in Rocky River, Ohio, focused on crafting custom journeys to Italy and Europe. This 8-day Italian journey will introduce you to Vicenza, Venice, Florence, Rome, and many beautiful destinations along the way. You can purchase tickets on our website at globalcleveland.org. Without further ado, I would like to introduce our moderator for this session, Courtney Barton. Courtney A. Barton is the Program Director for Arts and Culture and Racial Equity Initiatives at the Cleveland Foundation. Arts and culture has been one of the Cleveland Foundation's core funding areas since the 1970s, with a strong commitment to public art in service to the Foundation's overall mission to improve the lives of all residents of the greater Cleveland area. This commitment has included hosting artists from all over the world to engage in meaningful art projects through the Foundation's Creative Fusion Funding Initiative. We're so excited to have Courtney moderate this panel, and now I will turn it over to you.
Thank you so much. Hello, everyone, and thank you for joining us. It is a delight to be able to moderate this panel with a slate of wonderful artists who are engaging in public art around the world. We have joining us today Alex Lemieux, Jayon, Alex Senna, and Ana Quiros, and I will allow the panelists to introduce themselves and talk a little bit about their work. And then I will throw some questions to the panel for the discussion, and then we will take some questions from the audience. So with that in mind, just to jump right into it, I will ask Alex Lemieux to please introduce yourself and your work.
Good morning, everyone. Thank you, Courtney. My name is Alex Lemieux. I am co-founder and director of business development at Krios. So in a nutshell, at Krios, what we're doing is we represent artists since 2015 to help them develop and have a platform to showcase their work and to have access to different sites around the world. I will share my screen just to give you a bit of So since 2015, we've done a little over 200 exhibits all around the world. Our main goal at Krios is we are not artists ourselves, but we work closely with artists to give them the tools to reach out to different communities, different cities, and to help them develop all the logistics around business development, production, and everything. So our role has been to help them mostly at the beginning in Montreal to go outside of the city and have other opportunities. And then after a few years, we've worked with international artists to develop new opportunities and new ways to do business. So mostly what we've been trying to do is to make accessible large-scale installations to different communities. Some of you in Cleveland might have seen Prismatica 2 years ago at Public Square. So our role is really to make artwork that might have thought to be for one-time presentation or for a specific event and have them tour over the world for several years. So some of them are very interactive, some of them are very luminous. So really our role is to assist, do, and help them reach new communities. So this is pretty much what we're doing at Krios. And the main goal of why we're doing this is that a lot of different installations have been created over the years with the sole purpose of a one-time exhibit. And what we've been finding out is that there's a lot of different options. There's a lot of different opportunities for artists to be showcased, but artists don't necessarily want or need or really have the will to do pretty much what I call the non-sexy things of working the transportations, working the logistics and things like that. So our goal is really to assist them and making things a bit easier, but also for all different communities that want to have access to large scale installations and make a process that is as smooth as possible and really increase accessibility to public art, because we think that, there's a lot of great ideas, but, our role is really to expand the lifetime of those great ideas and to really help to make art something very accessible for everyone in every kind of communities. So in a nutshell, in less than 5 minutes, that's what we do at Krios.
Thank you so much for sharing that. I will now pass it to Alex Senna to also introduce himself and talk about his work.
My name is Alex. I'm Alex Senna from Sao Paulo, Brazil. I've been painting in the streets started with graffiti, and then now I work as a muralist and do other stuff like sculptures and interventions around the world. It's been like 15 years that I'm doing this, and I really want to show my work, but I think I have a little problem with my browser. It says I cannot screen share, so I don't know if we can put my website going on, just if we can do this. Anyway, so I travel around the world painting my stuff, and this is how everything happened to me. I developed the way of life of traveling and painting big murals. So from buildings to bridges to even to small spots, I try to left my mark wherever I go. So this is it for now. I will try to share my screen as soon as possible, but I think that's my website is here, so you guys can see the stuff that I did. And yeah, I think that's what I. Okay. Oh yeah. Okay, so we can pass on, and I talk to Jose Rita. Yeah.
Yeah, we'll try and get that up so that we can share some of your work.
Okay.
I will also now invite, Ana Quiros to introduce herself and her work.
Hello, good morning. Thanks, Courtney. Hello, everyone. I want to share also, I think, my screen. Let me see. Well, is this working? I don't know. Is it?
We can see your screen. I'm seeing the conference presentation though.
Okay. Well, I'm a visual artist. I am from Mexico. I was born in Mexico City, and I live now in San Miguel de Allende. So I have been thinking a lot for years. I have been a teacher for over 20 years. So I have been thinking about social practice, public art, and what is best for a community that lacks justice, education, and equality. Like here in Mexico, it's so common. So since I'm studying still my PhD in this, and I've been thinking how what we can do as artists, I've been thinking about symbolical or direct social practice, and also how participations affect these experiences in the public space. And what about short-term or long-term projects and all the relations we can establish with the participants? So I started doing basically installation with recycled materials in different parts of Mexico, but they were not permanent installations. They were always criticizing consumism or capitalism. Especially in Mexico, I also did installations like this that was just like a huge carpet made of books, uh, primary books, text of the schools, of primary, of elementary school, sorry. And people would walk on them because education is so bad in Mexico, public education especially. And so I was criticizing that and having the people take the books home. And so this became sort of a public library momentarily. And after the whole day, the books were gone absolutely. So these were for me all like, I mean, this had some participation, but also symbolical work, like a residency in Argentina where I just put like a long, I was doing parallels with the artists of art, the Argentinian artists, what they did during the dictatorship. So this was in Rosario, a long black strip for the morning. Or in Cordoba, I did like some cut plastic from the cut paper, the craftsmanship here in Mexico. I did that also in some communities in Coapan, where the migrants go to the US and they build their huge mansions, but they might never come back to them. So these are very small symbolical interventions. And then I thought about something else, and I came to A.B. Warburg and his Atlas Nemocine. So I thought about working with the people, with their memories. And I did a collective map with a Nahuatl community in Puebla, in Mexico. And they all have Nahuatl names, so we were trying to find out what the last names meant, and also doing a map of the small town with pre-Hispanic inspirations. Finally, I came to this summer to Cleveland, thanks to Art House Laila Voss, Erica Rabi, a beautiful artist, through the Cleveland Foundation Creative Fusion Program. So I wanted to do a memory atlas there. The idea was to work with refugees of Cleveland. And I got to work in the Thomas Jefferson International Newcomers School with kids like from 11, 10 till 14, 15, more or less. So I tried to build a memory atlas with them, a collage made out of their memories, and trying to research what we could do with that, no, how that would work, no, and it was not that easy. So we worked on this collage. There were kids from Afghanistan, Tanzania, Congo, Honduras, and it was interesting to see how their memories were working about their home countries, what they did remember, if they did not remember much, and they had to find out stuff in their phones. But it was really beautiful to see also their creative part. No, also again thinking what is good for them, how art can work for them. This is not necessarily public, no, but it was a participation of all these kids, and in a beautiful experience, I guess, just trying to see what their home countries looked like. And I did another group also during the summer. I worked with another group in Akron, in Ohio. These were 4 people in their 20s with a Deep in Theater group, and that was also a beautiful experience, from Bhutan, from Myanmar, Afghanistan, and we did the same memory atlas, trying to work on memories, of their experiences. With them, it was a lot easier because they could share basically all their memories very easily. They had beautiful stories, like Sa from Myanmar, who had to flee to Thailand, or Rose from Afghanistan. She had also a beautiful story, or like Nima from Bhutan, who was born in a refugee camp. So, and also Samantha from Congo. So, basically, my idea is, well, to keep thinking what I can do with art and with the community, not necessarily in like established monuments, but it can also be, I have done also like public sculpture, but I'm always like thinking about, again, what is best for the community, what can art do for the community, and it has been kind of my research for the past years. So that's all.
Thank you so much for sharing, Anna. I'm going to ask Jayon to please introduce himself and his work, and then we will circle back to Alex Senna's presentation.
Hi, my name is Jay, and thank you for the invitation. I am trained as an architect. I've been working as artist before I became architect, and my practice has kind of changed over the period of time of past 15 to 20 years or so. Shall we try to see full screen whether it's going to work? Oh, voila, it's working. So I've been working with a land studio for a while. I'm trying to deliver quite a major art project. It's been going up and down of different times, but hopefully I'll be back in Cleveland sometime soon to see the project come alive. Our project is quite diverse. Our practice is now about 30 people, and we are quite a big group of families under the umbrella of a 00. We have architects, we're furniture makers, we have think tank, and we have urban designers, and we have coders, and I think some of my colleagues now working with the lawyers and financiers, and I will talk a little bit more about that. My career path as a founder of Studio Weave just went through slightly odd the path coming into the built environment to design professional, I guess, which is a slightly odd word these days. From this quite a small scale of projects, I'm personally quite interested about not just about the visuals, but about this, the senses, all senses that we actually have with the built environment. So we have a series of installation that actually enhances the sound in a certain way. So the users of these installations are experiencing the environment in slightly different ways. We do a lot of community work installations. This was a canal boat turned into a little cinema to go up and down the canal in East London and inviting people. And this is a converted bus, became a workshop, inviting lots of artists and the makers to run workshops throughout the different neighborhoods. That this is quite straightforward installation, I guess. It's a lullaby factory that we designed for the Great Ormond Hospital in London. It's a center of the London. A crevice has been built between two buildings, and we went through quite a lot of the fanciful story writing and
oh no, Colin.
exploration to find the what's the purpose of this crevice, and we came up with a lullaby factory that which all children and adults can listen throughout the world. And these have always quite an interactive element. This is actually xylophone that you can actually the play, and the elements of the installation amplified sounds. This is installation we've done again in London. It's quite a newly developing neighborhood under the theme of home. For me, what is home? I'm Korean, the British. I came to this country when I was 13, and the question of where home is, what makes up the neighborhoods is quite close to my heart. This is the longest bench, one of the early projects that we've done in my career more than a decade ago now. It's about 400 meters long down in south coast of the England. Again, a lot of the engagement working with school children to come up with this work. One of the recent projects we have installed a little mini greenhouse in East London, and filled with the plants that what is expected to see in London without being in a greenhouse in 2050 with climate change. And it looks more like Brazil inside than London, which is kind of scary, but beautiful, the plants nonetheless. And slightly larger scale, as I became more architectural, I guess. Architectural education takes a long time. We started doing pavilions. This is actually a water tank tower that is adorned with the plants, and the working with other artists collaboration. And this is for this is a mini pavilion that is actually houses changing exhibitions. This is in the central London Haymarket for the Crown Estate. And when you work with a lot of craft people, you can really afford the richness of the material that comes out. This is little bike shed, well, traveler's shed, I guess, in France. Again, working with a local community and local makers very closely to deliver these kind of elements. A lot of our project, it's really community driven, providing community facilities stroke artwork. So it has a functionality, but it allows people to express what they're seeking for. So this is actually a community workshop that adorned by this pattern called Joy, that I worked with a graphic designer, and this is all hand painted by community during the construction. And yeah, Instagram has instantly got filled with a lot of photographs like this. And then project moved on to more buildings. This is Artist Studio up in Scotland, and it became larger. This is a school project we delivered in East London. We work in quite a lot of heritage building, the working with the curators and setting the direction of how curatorial direction of how new purpose of the building can come through, working with the heritage experts, and then some larger, more straightforward building. This is an office building down in South London for the charity, and this is the building that again recently completed in South London for the creative community. And we're also doing housing now in quite a large housings in East London. So project is becoming more complicated and larger and more architecty things happening. And in a really, really big scale, that we're doing a master plans, cutting through the cities, looking at the opportunities for the local authorities and the government agencies, seeing how these spaces can be used by artist community and activists of the urban realm. So starting from the when we delivered this kind of project, now we're in the position to making opportunities for these people, looking at the built environments and architectural composition of the areas. And from the neighborhood master plans to how buildings can stand up the a ground floor. So yeah, it has changed quite a lot. And with all this knowledge, we're starting to writing and making publications for the local communities, how they can make the public realm of their own. So it's not someone else's place, but it's actually their place. It's their doorstep, and it's their space to occupy. And this is the report and the recommendations we've written for the Transport for London, to how the communities can take over like roadsides and their own streets. It goes through a lot of legal language, the requirements and things, because all of this is required, and London and UK is quite complicated in terms of delivering the project. So trying to kind of work it all out for them, make it easy, who they need to contact and how they can go about it in a very layman's term. And we do research quite extensively. This is about the city's vision about the how we can redistribute the workspaces rather than centralize the workspaces and the city centers, how we can work from home and how we can actually work from the more like high street areas, close to your neighborhoods. And also, this is my last slide. We recently published about co-housing. Living in a city in 30s, I thought about how can we actually share our lives with our neighbors better. And places like London or any major cities, the living is quite hard because you don't really get to know your neighbors as much as when you're in the village where I came from. So how can we adopt and promote different types of living? We studied with a sponsorship of a Royal Institute of British Architect we'd recently published. And that's me.
Thank you so much for sharing your work. Rosarita, do you have Alex Senna's slides that you can share? And then maybe Alex, you can talk us through.
Yes, let me share them right now.
Great.
Okay, so it's just a briefly small introduction to everything. So as I said, in the last few years, I'm more focused on the big murals. Since it's like I never study art and it's actually everything from my head. I just try to understand the community and the context of everything to create an image that can hold everything. So this one I made it in Kansas. It's not Kansas actually. It's wrong. It's in Boston, and it's an old theater. And well, I'm not gonna speak about all of them, but we can pass through the other pictures so I can show you. So this is another examples of my work in Kansas. Just under we have Lima in Peru. This is this is Sao Paulo and South Korea, where I went a few times. This is in Russia, 18 building store, super big, and it's very difficult to make interventions so big and to please everybody, So it's kind of like you have to know that somebody will not like it. And well, pass it on, please. So this is just an example so you guys can imagine what I do. And always you can see that I work with only black and white. And the thing is, I do everything like very melancholic and very like I have this idea about stuff, and I don't know what happened that all the drawings that I do get the same vibe, this kind of joy division, crying. I don't know. Go on, please. This is in Denmark, and it's very crazy how we travel different places, and like I have to fit characters in their cities, and at the same time that I'm from Brazil, which is don't have nothing to do with Denmark, I have to find a link between, and we can go on. This is in Equator and Sao Paulo also. Sao Paulo is very big and full of skyscrapers, so we have space to paint, but in the bottom is where the chaos happens. So it's kind of instead of like painting big stuff in Sao Paulo, to fill it up, we have to paint the small ones. Kind of crazy. And this is other examples of stuff I did in very different countries. Before the pandemic, I went to 30 countries just to paint, from Mexico to major Europe, America, South America, and Asia. This is it, I
Thank you
guess.
so much. Thank you so much for
Yeah.
sharing your work. Thank you to all the panelists for sharing your work and your process. And I heard, I think, pretty clear themes of interaction, community participation, and reflection in all of the work that has been presented and the processes that have been presented. So with that in mind, I'll just throw this question out to whoever would like to kick it off to answer. But what role do you believe that public art plays in shaping inhabitants' experience of a city and vice versa? What role can inhabitants play in shaping the public art experience or the public experience of the cities in which they live?
Well, I can start off, with our role to really connect with different communities. We don't have the artist standpoint of, creating to feel some community expectation or things like that. But we find out that, it is as much important to have great public art, but also to have a public. Without public, public art doesn't mean anything. So you need both to make something as a statement for art. And public art and shaping cities is really important because it connects people towards something that is common for everyone. So you don't necessarily need to have social status. You don't necessarily need to have gender or racial. So nowadays it's really important to have something that people they can just come in, enjoy, see from their own eyes, have their own experience, and enjoy in their own ways. And as Gian said before, you don't necessarily know your neighbor, you don't necessarily know the people that lives nearby you, but you can just spend maybe an hour, spend a day, spend an evening with people that you don't know, and they can become friends because you'd be standing in front of public art together, or you can start off and spark a conversation about something. So public art is really this spark to have something different, something unique. And I think for communities it's really important to have something to look forward to, enjoy without boundaries, if I can say.
If I to add, I guess it's like public art for me. It works in so many different level, but there is a process of delivering public art, and that is a result of experiencing public art, and those two things are quite different impact. I think the process of delivering art, it's often, from my experience, it brings people together, let each other know each other, whether you're an artist that coming from somewhere else or you're a local artist working with the people to deliver it, because it does require quite a lot of process. And I mean, it's like you moved into new house and you're talking to your partner about what furniture you're going to get, or like what kind of each element. You still have to negotiate. You need to talk about it. Sometimes your partner will just bring something entirely new to the house, and then you still need to talk about it, wherever you're going to put it. And I love that kind of process, that the conversations, and sometimes it's contentious, and sometimes that's good and sometimes bad, but it brings people together and create the expression that they feel it's right for the area. And for the visitors, it's like your friend visiting your living room, that you and your partner has gathered things and made this space, and that says a lot about who you are. And each city I visit, not just the artwork, public artwork, architecture, but shops, restaurants, and all of these within your built environment really says a lot about their city and about those people. So I think it has a multiple layer of impact.
Thank you. Anna, were you going to?
Yeah, thank you, Courtney. Yes, I was going to add to what G said. I think exactly the same, that public art has expanded, definitely. So it has many levels or many ranges or many different types of experiences, and that certainly enlarges anything for the community, not only a city, but a small city or a small town. So, and as G said, I think it's all about relations. Making relations is very hard. Keeping relations is very hard. And so all of these projects, bigger or larger or smaller, they start with relations and they end with relations. And I think the better relations, the more experiences we can develop for citizens in those senses are better, no? It's symbolical, aesthetical, or more practical, no? So I guess that's what I wanted to add.
Thank you. Alex, were you going to say something? Alex Senna, or? I think you're on mute.
Stop it for me.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah.
You all got some questions, but so much that you have said has sparked a lot of new questions in my mind. And I think one of the questions, one of the other themes that was very clear in everything that you all have been talking about is making what otherwise might be unseen visible. So finding the elements in a city or a community, and figuring out ways to bring visibility to that. I think you can go to many cities in the world and see the very large monuments that reflect the sort of founding myths or overall messages that a community or a city or a country has already incorporated into their identity. But I think that you have all also talked about the people who occupy places that aren't seen on that scale. And I'm wondering if you can talk about why that might be important to do.
Well, I can go first. For example, for me, here in Mexico, most of public art is like completely developed by the government. No, there's basically very few works, sometimes commissioned to artists, and for years, I guess, just the past 20 years or 30, 40 years, it has changed a bit, but it was very nationalistic, no? And all about this history told by the government. Um, they want to change and they want to incorporate like indigenous cultures and this and that, but public art in many cities is very like narrow. It has expanded now with muralism, like Alex is doing, which is great, but we still need like more experiences. And it's very interesting how artists have developed their own groups or collectives or their own festivals to do such activities. No, I think that is starting to change, but it's a very hard thing. I think public art comes from a very this old-fashioned thing of the old monument and the history that is kind of told like over and over, no? But now artists and many people, architects, everyone is changing this, and I feel, and also that this is great, that this is what we need actually And hopefully in countries like mine, the government is starting to change and kind of help these collectives or these artists to develop a different type of work like the ones you have shown actually.
Just following on, for me, I distinguish between the art has been placed in the public space to public art. For me, if government commissions a sculptor to make a sculpture of someone to place in the public space, that's for me is artwork, a genuine artwork that's placed in a public space, which is quite different from the public art that I often define, that is encapsulating the expression of public, that is a place in a public sphere. Yeah. So then those things go through very different process, right? The one side is the narrative is controlled by whether it's authority or a singular-minded organization, and that's been delivered to the public space to be seen. Whereas a public art, often artists become the interpreter or arbiter of a lot of public's feel of towards something, shall we say? Yeah, and a lot of artists don't really do that through analyzing or like Excel spreadsheet making, but they are trained to absorb and understand the situation and use themselves as a filter, whether it's through their body or through their mind or through their brain, to express it. Yeah? So I think a true public art is always going to represent the experience of the people and who they are. That's why I think the relationship becomes so important when you're delivering public art, whereas when you are delivering an artwork in a public space, maybe that's slightly less relevant.
Yes, Alex, please. But you're on mute.
Okay, wait. Can you hear me now? Okay, so I agree with Ana and Jay, especially with Ana, because here in Brazil we have, like, in my city, Sao Paulo, is full of monuments made by the government and telling this completely side of the story, and we have to depend on of artists of graffiti or whatever to say the truth, you know. So it's super crazy to see giant sculptures of colonizers that kill most of native people, and we have to, like, just live with that, and until a group of people, you know, get together and take it off, like streets, name of streets that have like dictators and all that kind of stuff. So it's crazy how people change that, you know, when they discover it, what is that? Because here people don't even know what's going on, which is the sculpture, who is that, you know. They don't mix it up, they don't know, they don't have this relation with the art, they don't see themselves there. So yeah, I guess that's my contribution.
Thank you. And along those lines, I think all of you have talked about going into other cities, going into different communities, and working with those communities for public art. I'm wondering if you can talk about, say, the challenges and opportunities involved in going to a new place that you perhaps don't necessarily represent or know as well as your own community, and engaging in public art.
Well, if I may, I think what's really interesting is I think that's where the collaboration gets really interesting. I think when there's somewhere that you don't necessarily know or are you used to work, I think that's there that you can spark a conversation that is bigger than what you usually do and wherein you are comfortable. So that's when you can do more research. You can have a larger impact because you're bringing something different. So conversation with local people is always, I find that is always very interesting because they know their very own environment. They know what they usually do, what they can do with local artists. So when they're expecting to work with someone either out of town, out of country, or out of their usual network of things that they are collaborating on. So that's where this conversation gets really interesting because people, they get excited, so you feel that you're part of something special, and making something special is always very, very unique because it's not something you'll be able to do twice sometimes. So that's when project gets, I think they get more impactful because you're doing the little details, you're working through the local community. So I think it's part of the challenges because you're out of your comfort zone, but I think that's where you have larger benefits to the people you're working with.
Thank you. Any other? Oh, Jayon?
Yep. I guess, I mean, my work really is now becoming more about the collection of voices or collection of the work. So, like, for example, the work we're currently doing in Cleveland, we worked with 36 of local artists and hundreds of people that participating making of this thing. So I think my role is now becoming kind of like providing something that is itself is artwork, but facilitating other people's the work and trying to create the kind of like overarching concept within, so we can all work together to make something, almost like a barn raising, I guess. We got to build a farm, so we gotta make something, and people have different skills. Some have a carpentry skill, so they will make the frame. Some will be able to make the cladding. Some will be able to paint, and some will be able to lay the foundation, I guess. So I think the working in the international level, that's why we're starting to adopting that practice from our own, because I'm not saying the one thing is better than another, but it's for me the power when something is collated and collected in a larger scale. It's the voice can be more longer lasting. But then again, I don't have the skills of Alex or Anna to actually deeply dive into community and make a, I don't know, 20-story tall mural or make a beautiful tapestry or a painting. So different practice. But yeah.
Anna?
Yes, thank you, Courtney. Well, yes, like both G and Alex said, it's on one side the collaboration, and on the other side also the temporary, the time, no, the time you have to spend there, no, how long you can be there. It's a long project or short project. Obviously, something longer can be something deeper, and you can expand many things. And working sometimes in a short project when it's just a 2 week, a month, or something, it's harder, I think. No? So I think the time lapse is very important also. The collaboration, definitely, and it makes you like make an effort when you move to a different city. Like Alex said, you leave your comfort zone, and you have your eyes wide open, and I think you criticize less than in your own city, and you work more. But yes, I think the time lapse is also very important. The longer you can spend there, I think the better it is.
And I think there was also a number of different projects that were either some were temporary, some were intended to be temporary, some were permanent. Um, I'm curious your thoughts on the advantages or disadvantages, or when you might decide that something should be temporary versus permanent in the work that you do.
All right, I can start on that topic. So definitely, we are large advocate for temporary work. So mostly, pretty much what we do is using work that we're creating for a temporary purpose. And what we find kind of interesting is that now, can we talk about really temporary work or semi-permanent, or is it when we're exhibiting a piece for over 7 years or almost 10 years? Are we talking about permanent work that is touring? So those are things that we're kind of, I won't say challenging, but we are thinking. So our goal is definitely, when we're thinking about temporary work, is that it stays for a certain period of time on a site and it goes away. So when we're thinking about going away on a different site or different city or different country, so for us, temporary work is um, is something different. Is really two different things. When we're thinking about permanent, it's something. It's sometimes it's an heritage to something. So we have work that is there for a purpose, to send a message for a visitor, or to keep a memory of something. For us, when we're looking at temporary work, is really to keep people interested in new ways, have different people being interested to public art that might have not been interested if they were looking at either sculpture or traditional work. So our goal is really just to bring attention to public art in new ways. So with temporary work, it brings this sense of urgency to come and see. It's like a large exhibit in a museum. You don't want to miss it. You have a specific period of time and you need to go. So that's what we're trying to do. Most of the time, we refuse very long presentation because we feel that we're going against the purpose of temporary work, because we don't want people getting used to the piece. We don't want people just not seeing it when they walk by a park or a public space. So for us, it's really to bring something special for a moment of time, and we think temporary work has this power to do so.
Thank you for sharing that. Alex, Senna?
Okay. Oh, to me, it's very strange because 90% of my work is temporary. It doesn't last too long. And it's kind of crazy how it's different. Like Anna said, we have to go to other city, paint, work, and leave. And sometimes stuff stay there for ages. But in my case, it's is all my majority of things are very temporary and very cruel at the same time, because we work so much and paint that giant big stuff, and sometimes months later they say, oh, they erase it. And so I try to work with that kind of mind thinking, people will erase it. So I try to do temporary stuff. And you know what, they have this strange thing that happens, that the good stuff they erase it, and the terrible ones, the shitty ones, stay forever. And you have to deal with that. All my best works are erased, and my terrible ones are all up. So when you guys come to Sao Paulo, you're gonna see it. It's bizarre. Anyway, it's just like, if when Cleveland invited me to do the sculpture that will be permanent, I was like, I don't even know how to think in decades. Like what's going to happen. Maybe would change the idea or perspective of stuff. But it's cool too. It's just different way to think.
Thank you so much for sharing your experiences, for sharing your work. I think we only have a couple of minutes left, but I would just like to use this time to thank you for sharing with us today. I know that we are being joined today by audience members from sister cities all over the world. Highly encourage you to think about how public art can reflect the experiences of residents of your cities, and how we can all work together to create meaningful public art experiences. I'd also like to thank Global Cleveland for organizing this panel this morning, and I would like to thank the sponsors of this panel, Swagelock, Medical Mutual, Platform Brewery, Irish, The Lynx Inc., Corner 65, Us Together, and 12 Literary Arts. Thank you so much for joining us this morning, and I hope you enjoy the rest of the conference. Thank you, Alex, Jay, Anna, and Alex as well for your experiences.
Thank you. Thank you for the invitation.
Courtney.
Thank you.